I will say thank you for reminding me. All right, so that is, so we'll have these recorded. So for those of you who are like the little tiny bit of extra credits not worth actually coming to class, that's fine. Hopefully enough of you will want the extra credit that you'll show up and I'll have, feel like I've got some kind of audience. All right, so let's go through some introductory stuff. We've got some introductory stuff to do today, and then we'll actually get into some content. This is the book for this class. This is the earlier version of the book for this class. When I first started teaching this class, you'd be surprised. I have taught this class every semester since 2001. How many of you were not born in 2001? We're like, not yet born. Okay, so for like your whole life, every semester I've been teaching this class. And it used to be there was only one textbook, like one book that had like assignments and back you'd fill. It was a decent book, but it was expensive. It was like even back in like 2001, it was like $150. And it was just okay. It was like the only option. And then some professors, one actually here from BYU and one from USU, started the company My Educator. How many of you have never bought a book from My Educator before? So it's a few of you who haven't. So it's an online textbook company. And one of the great things that they did was they made it possible to do automatic grading of assignments in Excel. And so when they had that technology in place, I said, you know what, I'm gonna work to get VBA assignments automatically grading. And I thought, we got to get a book that we can put on the My Educator platform. So I did a search to find out, is there a book that's kind of gone out of print? This is about 2016 that I was doing this. And this one, Teach Yourself Excel 2000 Programming, was out of print at the time. And it reviewed, had really good reviews on it. And so I reached out and tracked down Matthew Harris, the author of the book. And it's kind of hard to contact someone out of the blue, but finally he responded to me. And I said, hey, listen, how would you like to take your book, Teach Yourself Excel Programming 2000, and bring it up to 2016 standards and publish it again? And he was kind of skeptical. I would be interested, but I have one requirement. You can't limit me to 21 days or 21 chapters. Because in a book called Teach Yourself Excel in 21 Days, you only get 21 chapters. He said, I want more chapters. I said, knock yourself out. I put him together with the guys at My Educator. And I said, hey, let's get this book up there and I'll write some automatic grading for it. And that'll just be great. And he's great. He actually used to teach programming at Berkeley University, and he does a really good job. If there's any criticism of the book, it's that it's a little bit too wordy. And you'll find that out because he started with 21 chapters and he was like, okay, I'm done. How many did he have? 41. He doubled the size of the book. This was 21 chapters. It's now 41 chapters. The guys at My Educator, when I said, hey, I'm adopting this book, the guys at My Educator were like, this is by far the largest book we have. It's going to cost more than normal. That was all. We don't need all that stuff. We're going to cut it down and choose just what I need, and they'll sell it at the normal price. And they kind of said, okay. But then apparently it was too much work to actually cut the book down, so they never did it. So it's the full book. That's a normal price. So that's the book. I'm really pleased with the book. It's a great reference. There's way more stuff in it than we're going to cover. And so having that is going to be great for you. You get lifetime access to the book. But the important part, the whole reason that we set it up this way is so that I can give you multiple attempts at your homework and project submissions. It used to be, when I taught this class, it would be like, everyone submit your stuff, and then I'll run it through a set of grading algorithms to produce a grade on it, and then you'll get your grade. The trouble is that, it would always take, there's always some stragglers turning stuff in late, and then it would take me a while to actually get around to running it. So by the time you got your feedback, it was at least a week since you'd done it, and your grade was set in stone. Once you had that, we're moving on to new content. Because we're on this platform now, the way it works is that you do your work whenever you want. Even if you want to work ahead, you do your work, you hit submit, and in a few seconds, you have your score. And we've known for close to a century now that the most important thing we can do to improve learning in any context is to reduce the feedback cycle. Give meaningful feedback quickly and give students a reason to re-engage that feedback. That's what really drives home learning. And so because we're on this automatic grading platform, you can submit while your mind is still in the game. You can say, oh, this is what I missed. Great, go back and change that. and submit again. What should I do? Should I give you the average of your first 2 submissions? Or should I give you the highest of your first 2 submissions? Let's vote. Who says average? No one says average. Who says highest? We're not going to vote on everything in this class, but we'll vote on that. We're going to give you the highest score. Now, be careful, because when we were first developing this technology, and I worked hand in hand with my educator to produce this. How many have had IS 110? Take an IS 110. Okay, so I wrote the grader, the automatic grading procedures for that book. And when we were first building those, we did some tests. The first time we built it, we said, oh, we'll give them 2 submissions and we'll take the higher submission. And so, the grades kind of came in and we got in trouble because the grades for that class, like the overall GPA was too high. And so we thought, how can we lower the GPA in this class? How can we make it a little bit harder? And we said, great, we'll just let folks take the average of their 2 submissions. So their first submission counts. It's going to be a part of their grade. And then they can pull, because an average, the second submission, they can get half the points back. And so we ran the class again, the same, except for that one change. Guess what? The GPA was higher that time. And here's what we found out, is that when it's the average, like the total score was higher when we took the average score than the total score was when we took the highest score. The reason? When that first submission, you have skin in the game, you take it more seriously. You really do. And so by the time you get your feedback, you go, okay, this is really the stuff I didn't know. When that first submission doesn't really count, it's tempting to say, well, let me get partway there and submit and see what the grader is really looking for. And that's going to end up leading you to a lower score. So what I'm saying is that I'm glad to give you the higher of the 2 scores, but that means it's on you to really take that first one seriously. Like to do this right, take that first submission seriously and do your best work. Okay. So that's our textbook. And there's a link in Learning Suite to where you can link directly there to purchase it. I can find Learning Suite here. Purchase course textbook is right there. And so, yeah, what does it cost? Is it 89? It's 70? Didn't raise the price when they raised about 2 or 3 years ago. They raised the price by $20 on everything. I don't know how they missed this one. Don't tell them. They probably don't realize it's less than normal. It's their biggest book and now probably one of their most inexpensive, or I should say their least expensive. All right, here's my teaching philosophy. I take it from Galileo. You cannot teach anyone anything. I love this philosophy because I'm off the hook. You can only help them discover it within themselves. Now, do I really believe I'm going to help you discover VBA, spreadsheet automation, within yourself this semester? No, I don't believe that either, but just stopping with you can't teach anybody anything didn't quite seem like a very compelling teaching philosophy. But I really do believe I can't teach this stuff to you. So what's going to happen is that you're going to come to class, and together, most of you have a computer, I see. I encourage you to come and kind of work through the examples with me in class. Some students find it better if they have the time to say, you know what, I'm just going to kind of sit back and watch what you do in class. And because I'm posting the video, they'll kind of go through and kind of work through the example later in class. The truth is that's probably the best thing, but it like doubles the time to do the class. But I'm going to show you great and wizard-like things to do with really unbelievable things in Excel that you can automate with VBA. And but you won't learn it just by coming here and watching it. Usually every semester I get a student who says, hey, I want to audit your class. And I'll tell them, you're welcome to audit the class, but I've never had a student who audited the class learn very much. Well, I take that back. One time I had a student actually kind of stick with it. Because you don't really learn this until you're working through the projects. There'll be 6 projects in this class that kind of hold your feet to the fire to say, show me that you can do the stuff that we've talked about. And that's where the struggle happens. That's where you're going to learn it. So I'm going to show you great things, but you're going to learn this by doing it. And the truth is, you want to really learn this stuff, don't stop with the homework that I give you, but start to apply the stuff that you're learning in whatever else you're doing in Excel. You're using Excel in your marketing class or your supply chain class. So you know what, I'm going to automate some of this stuff that we're doing. And even if it might ultimately take longer to do, the fact that you've kind of put your VBA skills in to kind of make that other project go better, that's where you're really going to learn it. This is what the process looks like. It's not a pretty process. Let me tell you about Esther Ransom. Esther Ransom was my 3rd grade teacher, and she brought into class an incubator. Did you ever have this experience in like grade school? Raise your hand. Just a few of us here. We had an incubator with a dozen or more eggs in it, and we would come and had a kind of window we could look in, and we would check the progress of the days. What does it take? Like 3 weeks for those eggs to hatch. I'm not really sure, but We'd look every day and it's like, oh, there's still eggs. We come in, oh, there's still eggs. And then you can't believe the pandemonium that broke out when we came to class and there was one little hole in one egg with a beak, kind of trying to peek its way out. We went crazy. And what did we want to do? As third graders, what did we want to do? We wanted to help that baby chick out of that shell. It was struggling. Baby chick's trying to peck and it's like getting worn out, just trying to peck a little hole. And we were Mrs. Ransom, we got to help that poor chick. And what did Mrs. Ransom say to us? No, you can't help that chick. That chicken is developing really important muscles, and if you help it out of that shell, it will die. That's what she told us. I'm not, now looking back on it, I don't think that was really true, but that's what she told us. But the metaphor is totally appropriate for what we're doing in this class, because, just what it means is learning VBA is ugly. That's what it means. But you will get to the struggle. It'll be like, oh, it looks like I've done exactly the same thing that we did in class, and it's not working. And you're going to reach out for help to fellow student on homework. You wouldn't reach out to a fellow student for help on your code for a project. We'll talk about those more, the distinction more in just a little bit. Maybe you'll reach out to the TA or to me, and it'll be, Professor Allen, I just don't see what the problem is. And I'm going to look at it and I'm going to go, I know exactly what the problem is. I can see it. It's like glaring to me, who's been doing this forever. The problem is glaring, and you can't see it. And like my little third grade self, I'm going to want to just say, there's the problem, fix it. But if I do that, you won't develop the important muscles that you'll be developed by solving that problem yourself. And I'm afraid that you might die. I learned the lesson from Mrs. Ransom. So I don't want to kill my students. It's really bad for ratings when you kill your students. And so what I will do is I will try to help you find the problem. I'll help you, give you some thought to get you going in the right direction. And that will be frustrating to you. But it is a really critical, important part of the learning process to help you to track down that problem for yourself. The truth is, I'm more invested in your actual learning than the TA is, he's not even here today because he's in some MBA class. It's still on some trip or something. I don't know. They don't even get here for another week or so. And so the TA might help you more than I would. I will scold him at that. But anyway, just realize that the struggle is really an important part of it. And just kind of one more thing. Like if you find yourself struggling at 2 a.m., stop and go to sleep. Look at it when you wake up. And just tell you the reason. It's like a known phenomenon in programming is we'll kind of get locked in here and we can't see the problem. And the reason we can't see the problem is because we've kind of drawn a circle around some part of the system and we've said, the problem is in here. I've got to find the problem. I know it's in here. And that's not where the problem is. When you get totally locked up, the problem is outside the circle that you've drawn. And so literally by going to sleep and then starting again, when you come back, you have forgotten where you drew the circle. And by necessity, when you say, I got to find the problem, you draw the circle bigger and you find it. It's like, how many of you are like experienced programmers and you've had that happen? You wake up the next day, you look at it and boom, you see the error immediately. Yeah, see, it's common. So yeah, the struggle is important, but don't struggle at 2 a.m., right? Don't like struggle for hours and hours and hours. Either take a break or reach out for some help. All right, oh boy. Let me tell you a little bit about life mission. So this is not so much about VBA as it is just something that I feel as a fatherly professorial figure. It's my responsibility to help you think about some things differently. How many of you are accounting majors? Just raise your hand proudly. Wow, good number of you, wonderful. I was an accounting major here. In fact, I was the very first class they had the integrated junior core. So in the early 1990s, I was one of those folks. And I remember sitting in the accounting junior core. They still call it the junior core? Yeah, I was sitting in the accounting junior core and I had an epiphany, a sudden realization of great truth. I'm embarrassed to tell you this epiphany because I was like a junior in college before I ever had this thought. But it was, oh, wow, like the stuff I'm learning here in class, I'm learning it because someday someone will pay me more money because I know this stuff. Like I didn't realize that until I was a junior in college, which seems kind of strange to me. But I thought, oh, that's the purpose of education. And I think largely in our society today, that's how we view education. We say, oh yeah, what's the purpose of education? Is to be able to teach you what you need to know to be able to get a good job. In fact, we'll ask children as young as 4th grade. Usually 4th grade, you'll get a majority, if not almost everyone in fourth grade giving this answer. You ask a fourth grader, why do you go to school? What do you think the answer is? Hey, before you answer it, why does a fourth grader really go to school? What's the real reason a fourth grader goes to school? Yeah, their mom tells them they have to do it. Their mom makes them go. They wouldn't go otherwise. There's a few weirdos that would go, but most wouldn't. But they won't say that. They will not say that by fourth grade. Why? What's the answer? Just someone yell it out. What is it? Yeah, to get a job. Money, it's the same answer. It's because they're not paying you to go to school, but ultimately someday you'll get a job. And that's exactly what we did. It's the way we view education in our society. And most of you feel exactly the same way. I know, because you were in a business school, like you're probably majoring in a business school. And so you think that's the purpose of education. But I want to expand your mind a little bit about education just a little bit more. There's something more than just what does it take to get a job or to get the degree. And it comes to this talk that I heard in General Conference of 2017 by this guy named John Pingree, who I think is still, because this most recent conference, he spoke again. So I guess he's still a member of some quorum of the 70. And man, I was like, Pingree's talking again, I'm going to listen. And it was like I was totally left flat by his talk. But this talk that he gave in 2017 was almost like life-changing to me. And it's probably because I was thinking about what he addressed. So the title of the talk is it Moses, I have a work for thee? No, just I have a work for thee. And it comes from what God says to Moses, Moses, I have a work for thee, right? Right. So Moses just had this vision, where he has seen all of the handwork of God, everything that he's created. And then after this vision, he says to Moses, Moses, I have a work for thee. I've got something that I need you to do for me. Amazing thought. Here's God who created the universe, who created worlds without end. And he needs something from me. And what Pingree said is Moses wasn't alone. Everyone has that same responsibility. God has sent you here to do something. And for the first time over the pulpit in church, I heard it preached that it's something besides your home teaching or your ministering or your church calling. There is something outside what we normally draw the circle around church activities that God wants you to accomplish. He talked about people like Martin Luther King Jr., who substantially changed the world, Mother Teresa and so forth. But he says that everyone has a work. And so he had my attention because I've been thinking about it. By the time you get to be my age and you realize I probably have been through more life than I have left, you start to wonder, how is the world going to be better because I came through it? And so I was kind of thinking about this. But he's talking about your divine purpose, your life's mission. Just show me on a scale of 0 to 5, how comfortable you are with your, knowing what your life's mission is. 0 is, I've never really thought about having a divine mission here to accomplish in life. 5 is not only do I know it, but I'm actively pursuing it. So where do you think? I'm seeing some 4s, I'm seeing a few 5s here, 3s, some 1s, some 3s. Okay. So to me, the biggest hurdle is trying to figure out what my life's mission was. And what Pingree said, which was so amazing, was, here's how to figure out what your life mission is. And I was like, whoa, you're kidding me. There's a way, there's an algorithm. Great, I'll program it. How do you do it? And what did he say? He said Doctrine and Covenants, section 46. And section 46 talks about spiritual gifts. He says there's lots and lots and lots of spiritual gifts. How many of you know people that have a lot of spiritual gifts? In fact, you think maybe they probably have them all. I know someone who probably has all the spiritual gifts. So you're good at this because there's only a few of you answering yes, because we know from section 46, no one has them all. But, you might know people who are think I don't have any spiritual gifts. You might have thought that about yourself at some time. Maybe I don't have any spiritual gifts. We also learn in section 46 that unto everyone is given a gift. You have at least one. We don't know what you got, but you got at least one. So here's the question. What is a spiritual gift? A spiritual gift is just something that comes naturally to you that doesn't come naturally to everyone else. For me, one of my spiritual gifts is public speaking. I'm really comfortable speaking in front of people. That's not comfortable for everybody. And so what Pingree said was, step 1, figure out what your spiritual gifts are. Because why did God give you those spiritual gifts? It's just like sitting up there and it's like, what? We got these spiritual gifts lying around here. They're going to go bad if we don't use them. We should probably just give them out. Is that what happened? Why did he give you a spiritual gift? To use it to serve your life, to improve your life, probably to improve others' lives. Another way to say that, and this is what Pingree said that I'd never considered before, and when he said it, it was so obvious, I thought, why didn't I think of that? Is that he gave you that specific set of spiritual gifts so you would be equipped to complete the mission he sent you here to accomplish. You want to figure out what your divine mission is, start by figuring out what your spiritual gifts are. And if you say, well, let's see, I don't have a mission because I don't have any gifts, that's wrong. You have at least one gift. Whatever it is, track it down, and that's going to get you going in the right direction. And so what my suggestion here is today is to think about education more broadly than what you need to graduate, what you need to be able to get a good job. Think about what education you need to be able to fulfill your divine mission. And it's tough because the model that we use for education, I mean, at least here in college, you can say, I think I want to know something about VBA, so I'll take this class. But you don't get to choose your classes at least until high school, if not even, maybe not even then. Like all of your education up until high school is like someone told you, this is what you have to do. Did they ask you what your divine mission was before they told you what you're going to do? No. And so I think your education should be driven largely by what your divine mission is. Okay. Now for the robe. Professor Allen, why are you wearing the robe? Graduation isn't for several months now. I'll tell you, I'm glad you asked. So there I was, just about to graduate with my doctoral degree in 2001 from the University of Minnesota. And I got an email that says, I see that you have signed up for graduation, like you're going to come to graduation. You will need a robe. Click here to rent, click here to buy. And I thought, I'm going to be a professor. I'm going to have to wear the robe pretty often. I might as well buy it. So I decided to buy it. Then I found out that the robe cost, this is in 2001, more than $600. Like it is by far the most expensive article of clothing I own. I mean, nothing else even comes close. Like these pants, $11 at Walmart, really. And so, it's a great robe. So my first professorship was at Tulane University in New Orleans, and we held commencement in the largest room in North America, like the Superdome. This is great pageantry and the whole, it was 3 hours. And I was a little bored during the reading of the names and such, but for most of that time, I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Second year, I was a little surprised because it was exactly the same. Like they had that thing down and it was the same every year, except for the commencement speaker. Like who do we get for commencement speakers here? Like prophets, apostles. Who was our commencement speaker that second year? Ellen DeGeneres was the commencement speaker. That was kind of strange. So there I am, now bored. It's before smartphones. And what does this former accounting major do to occupy his mind sitting in the robe at commencement? What did I do? I'm looking at this robe thinking, I love this robe. $600, $600, I'm going to wear it for my career. I built an amortization table in my head for the robe. It costs, and I realized, it costs $37.50 every time I put it on. And that was a problem because it would have cost me less to rent. And on top of it, I learned once I got to Tulane would have paid for me to rent the robe. So I was just kind of feeling I really wasn't getting my money's worth out of the robe. And then I had maybe the second epiphany in my life. I had another great realization of great truth. And what was it? If I wore the robe twice as often, it would cost half as much per donning. This is the thing accounting students think of. So if you hadn't had the thought yet, my fellow accounting students, it will come. And so I thought, where else could I wear the robe? Now, you might remember having heard about this. This is Hugh Nibley. We won't watch the clip, but sometime before 1983, Hugh Nibley gave the opening prayer at commencement. And it was like, dear Lord, look down upon us from your high and holy habitation across the mountains grandeur, and we, your humble servants, gathered here. We apologize for coming before thee, adorned in the black robes of the false priesthood. And then kind of goes on, and and after the prayer, people, what did he say? False? What did he say? What was that? And yeah, like he just sat down like it was a normal thing to say. And I guess enough people asked him about it that when he spoke at commencement in 1983, he kind of recounted that, and he tells a little bit about it in this particular talk. But apparently, like the origin of academic robes is like from the temple. They're like apostate temple robes. And so when I'm trying to figure out where should I wear my robe to increase my value, my first thought was I should wear it to church. But wearing wearing the robes of the false priesthood to church, this didn't quite sit right with me. In fact, I was going to do it, but my wife was all, no, you're not. And so I thought, well, he doesn't see what I wear at school. And so I just took it and I started wearing it on the very first day. So for the rest of my time at Tulane, I would wear it first day going to class and it would hang in my office until I needed it for commencement. Then Hurricane Katrina came, our house was flooded, and the job opened up here at BYU. My wife was all, hey, New Orleans has been great, but I'm leaving. And if you want to stay married, you got to find a place that we can go together. And so we came here to BYU, and I had to decide, am I going to wear the robe? Because the truth is, people look at you strange when you're wearing the robe. And it's not commencement. It's normal on the day of commencement and maybe the next day for convocation. But other than that, they think you're crazy. And on top of things, we didn't have the new part of the building built. And I was a low guy on the totem pole, which meant I had to walk across campus for the classes that I was teaching. And so I'm walking across campus. So we want to wear the robe because people are like, wow, this guy's gone senile and he thinks graduation is, now, and it's like months away. Man, we got to get rid of tenure. If they think all these things, they don't say them, but they think them. And I thought, yeah, I guess I'm going to go ahead and wear the robe. So I wore the robe to class the first day. I came the second day in normal clothes, and there's a guy sitting on the front row. And I'm kind of getting ready for class, and the class hasn't started. And he says, hey, Professor Allen, where's the robe? I said, oh, I was just going to wear it on the first day. And he goes, oh, I liked the robe. I said, really? I like the robe too. I polled the class that day. How many of you think I should wear the robe every day? It was unanimous. They want me to wear the robe. I want to wear the robe. Why wouldn't I wear the robe? I'm pleased. I've worn the robe every day to teach since then. And I'm pleased to announce I'm down to well below 30 cents per donning. So yeah. Oh, stop. You're too kind. All right. So that's why I wear the robe. Oh, no, don't. It's probably going to be too loud. Close. Oh, it's not bad. Okay, we'll watch you nibbling. This is short.
Here's the clothes and the black robe and the false priesthood. Now, many have asked me since then whether I really said such a shocking thing. But nobody has ever asked what I meant by it. Why not? Well, some knew the answer already, and as for the rest, we do not question things at the BYU.
We didn't question things at the BYU. All right. So we do not question things at the BYU. All right, so that's introductory. So we talked about the textbook already. Textbook table of contents. What do I even have this here for? I don't even remember. I don't know why I have that link there, but there's a table of contents in case you're interested. It's not even for the one for this semester. Okay. Files and videos for this course. Okay, so listen, I learned many years ago that this class actually goes better if I record and post the lecture. If, like, your only chance to find out what was going on was to be paying attention and following along with everything through class, like, it would be like, oh my gosh, if I don't get this now, I won't be able to do the assignment. And so folks would be like, oh no, Professor Allen, can you stop? It's not quite working for me. And I don't know if I'll get behind, I won't be able to keep up. And then I found out that if I recorded the lectures and posted them, if you got behind, you'd be like, you know what? I'm not going to keep trying. I'm just going to watch and kind of focus on what he's doing, because I know the video is going to be there. I can go and review it later. And so I said, you know what? I'm just going to start posting things. And so every class that we post, instead of trying to put it in Learning Suite where only you have access to it, I'm just posting it on a blog. So vba-course.blogspot.com. And I've got all the chapters laid out for this semester. If you're thinking, oh, you know what? I've got to be, out, performing with the Cougarettes or something, I'm going to miss a particular lecture. You don't have to wait till the video gets posted, because chances are it's going to be almost the same thing I did. I've been doing this for over 20 years. I pretty well have it figured out. And it's going to be pretty close to what we did on that topic the last semester. So you can actually kind of look ahead and, find out what's there. So, but I will post the videos that we do in class by the end of the day when we have that class. And just kind of come here, and it's like, here's the topics. Here's also where you'll come if there's files you need to download before the course. You can download them here. The file that I build during the class, I will upload here. So you'll be able to say, hey, I just want to go exactly copy what Professor Allen did in class and see why mine's not working. That's great. So this video has not been uploaded. You should expect it on Wednesday, January 10th. Is that today? Well, that's yesterday, because not today's. That's Wednesday's lecture. Yeah. So by 4:45 p.m. And if 4:45 rolls around and I haven't posted this video, that link turns into a button that if you click, it will send me a text message. You click it and it'll be like, oh, I forgot to post the video. Now, like, my schedule changes. So usually a couple of times at the beginning of the semester, I'll forget to post because things have changed for me. And so poor old guy is having a hard time keeping track of things. So, so yeah, don't feel ashamed to click the button. You don't get any confirmation that it's sent or anything, but it will send me a message. I think 2 is the most I've ever had. And I suspect it was the same person clicking the button twice, but yeah. So it's not, yeah, someone said, I'm just gonna, so yeah, don't feel, oh, maybe I don't want to text him, someone else has already texted him. If you're seeing that, and you just go ahead and click the button, that'll be good. All right, so that's the files and videos for this class. What's next? Getting help from the TAs and the professor. So the way that we're going to handle help is something that I set up for like during COVID, like when we couldn't meet in person. And so I just set up another, I love blogs because they're like free and they're forever. I think all the rest of these are ones that professors were using during COVID, but they're not using them anymore. This is probably the only one that's still active. But the idea here is that you come here and you say, I can see the queue right here. Like if there's someone waiting to be helped, information will show up right here that says there's someone in the queue ahead of you. And then what you do is you come down and you say, all right, here's my net ID. Your net ID is what will authorize you to submit something. So I still have to get your list of net IDs loaded up so it will authorize you. But you put your net ID in, you say, hey, what am I asking about? It's our final Fallen Angel project. And then a little brief description of your issue, and you're going to give a Zoom link. So you give a link that we can connect onto, and that way, when I see you on the back end of this queue, I can just click that link, I can join your meeting, and then we can talk. If you've got like during COVID, you could start a meeting and it would last forever until someone joined it. I don't think that's the case anymore. And so I added this thing to put a private note. So if you're like, hey, my Zoom meeting may not be active, but text me at this number so that I can, join in, then so the Zoom link and the private note don't get shown up in the queue. We only have access to those on the back end. Now, we have one TA, and I'm hoping to hire another 1 or 2, depending on how many of you drop by the ad drop deadline. And so that queue should, we'll see when the office hours are posted. The office hours should show up here once we get them listed. And then if it's like during office hours, like the TA should be responding to you quickly. Now there might be a few ahead of you in the queue, but he should be there working on that queue. If you ever realize, hey, I'm the first one in the queue and I haven't been helped, you send me an email right now. I mean, if it's like during some TA's office hours and they're not responding to you, that's a problem that I need to correct them about. So please feel free to reach out to me and say, hey, Professor Allen, I'm on the queue, and I may or may not be able to help you at that moment. But the other thing is that even outside of office hours, I leave myself connected as on call, which means I get a text message when someone puts help in the queue. And so, especially if I'm out taking my evening walk or something, then I'm more than glad to kind of hop on, through my cell phone and help you, if I can. Of course, I can't help you if I'm like teaching class or something, but if I'm available, I'm more than happy to get on and help you. So I know how frustrating it can be to have, really struggled with something and then, I just need a little bit of help here. So that's the way that we're going to do help. So I think we also have a Slack workspace. You can join the Slack group for this class, and you can reach out to the TA on Slack. But if you're looking for help, like have them look at your code and help you through the help queue is going to be the better way. The idea on the Slack space is a place really that you can communicate with each other. Yeah. So the Slack link is no longer. The Slink is broken. The Slink is broken. Okay, so I'll get that fixed. And yeah, I'll get that. Hopefully I can have someone sending me an email. Professor Allen, please fix the Slack link. That will be helpful to me. I should be able to get that fixed today. Thanks. And then here's another link that lets you record the class attendance. I think that'll just take you to the same place, but you shouldn't need to do that because it'll be on the screen for you to do. Oh, by the way, what are you going to do? If we've talked about the quote and it was Phillis Wheatley from 1774, what if after the quote goes away, someone comes and sits next to you and says, what are you going to say? Well, if it was today, you would say Phillis Wheatley, 1774, like it's totally okay. I mean, if I could like put that up somewhere else and just leave it up for class, I'd be happy to do that. Because it says you were here for like, a substantial amount of the class. Like if someone asked you, like 10 minutes after class, what was the quote, go ahead and tell them because they wouldn't get any credit for submitting it late anyway. Like you got to submit it during class. They show up like 5 minutes before the end of class and ask you for the quote. I will leave that to your discretion as to whether you would give it to them or not. But questions? Okay, getting help. We got to set this up. Syllabus quiz opens today. So there's a syllabus quiz that just like, kind of takes you through. Have you gone through the syllabus? So you understand what some of the important policies are. Let me tell you about a couple of the policies that are really important. Here's how we're going to handle, and this is discussed in the syllabus, but there are two kinds of assignments in this course. There are what we call homework and they're projects. They feel a lot the same because for both of them, you're writing VBA, but they're different. Let me tell you what a homework assignment is. What a homework assignments are, unless I've made a mistake in scheduling, they are due late in the night, 11:59 p.m. on the night that we cover a particular topic. So I might introduce something to you in class about debugging and error handling. And the homework that goes for that will be due that night. It's not because I'm just wanting you to have just a short amount of time to do the homework. The intent of homework is for you to do the homework before you come to class. If you've done the reading that's noted in the course schedule, the homework should be fairly easy and straightforward to do. And I used to make it due before class, but that created a whole lot of stress for everyone. So I said, listen, we can do after class. So if you don't get a chance to get to it, you can kind of learn it in class and then do it really quickly afterwards. You won't learn as much, but the purpose of homework is to prepare your mind for class. It's to get you ready to receive the stuff that I'm going to try to give you. So you're not starting completely from scratch when you come to talk about it. So it's usually a small part of what we're covering in class. Generally pretty easy. If you've done the preparatory work to get ready, you can get it done and submitted. For homework assignments, I would be thrilled, more than thrilled, if you worked together with someone else. The two of you sat down together and said, let's figure this solution out together. You talk about code, and as long as your fingers are writing the solution, I'm okay with it. As long as you're an active part of the work. Now, it would not be okay for someone to give you their file and for you to copy and paste, or to give you your file and you just to copy it, type it while I'm using my own fingers. As long as you're part of the effort to produce the solution, you can work together for homework. And the whole point is, homework is to help you get ready for course. And you get ready for that course if you're working with someone else on it, or if you're doing it yourself, that's fine. So homework is totally okay to be collaborative, not copying from someone else, but collaborative, working together as long as your fingers are doing the work. Under no circumstances will you ever copy someone else's code and give it to me as your own. You won't. You just won't do that. Well, not another student's code. Like if you find something that's like not like an example of my exact file out on the internet, but oh, here's something on Stack Overflow that's helped. Yeah, copy that and use it. That's kind of normal, but you're not going to take someone else's like solution to our particular problems. Now, projects. So there's homework. There's like 10 homework assignments. There are 6 project assignments. The projects are different because the projects are where you show me that you can do the stuff we did learn in class. And so projects need to be like an individual endeavor. Now, I'm going to ask you to draw a real fine line here because I'm okay with you talking with someone else about the project, even details about the project, but not ever talking about code. So in other words, if you're saying, I'm not quite sure how to get started on this project, talk to your buddy and say, hey, any thoughts about getting started on this project? He might say, yeah, you probably should declare a couple of arrays. You're not going to say specifically how to do that or what they are. And I would kind of iterate over across this list and then work from there. That would be okay. But the moment that you say, look at this code or type this code, or this is the code you should write for a project, that's what would be considered academic dishonesty in this class. Unfortunately, I had a couple of students, just like in the last class, there were 4 different students that, I think only 2 of them failed because of that. Like they worked together on every project, and I wasn't aware of it until the last week of class. I'm assuming that you are following the honor code in this class, that you're obeying the rules. I don't have anything automated that looks as if you turned in the same thing as someone else. But what happened with these poor souls is that they collaborated on every single project. Like every project they turned in was exactly character for character copy. Like they either worked together or one copied the other. And I didn't find out about it until the last week of class. I had no option but to give them zeros on every project. You cannot pass this class with no credit on the projects. That was uncomfortable, both for me and for them, more for them, I expect. But yeah, so that's important. The projects have to be your own work. Got it? All right, syllabus quiz is there. So let's talk about how we're going to do the grading for this here. And for that, we're going to come right here. So this is a 9-minute video. We're not going to do that here in classes. It's a 9-minute video that's going to take you through how to get set up for doing the grading. You're going to download this. This is an Excel add-in. I'll just go ahead and install it. Let's go ahead and install it together. If you don't quite catch this, the video will take you through what I'm about to do. I'm pretty sure I can install on this machine. Let's find out. So I'm going to download this Atlas VBA 1_5A download. So I've just downloaded that. Now, you're going to find out that anytime you download a macro-enabled workbook, anything that's got macros in it from the web, Microsoft has gotten a little bit more tight about security. So I'm going to go ahead and open up kind of look at this in my browser. Oh, by the way, I see a few of you on Mac computers here. Microsoft has kept the Mac version of VBA less capable than the Windows version of VBA. And so for this class, some of the assignments you will be able to do on your Mac, but you are going to need access to a computer running the Windows version of Excel to be able to do this class. You have a couple of options. Some of the things we do, you're going to have to install software. So the library is not going to be an option for everything. For many of the assignments, you could use a library computer. But as it turns out, you can borrow a computer from BYU for no cost. How many of you knew that? You could borrow a computer, it doesn't cost anything. Oh, good. So you knew that already. If you didn't, just go to Google BYU computer rentals, and it's kind of a first come, first served basis. But I called them last week, they said, we've got lots of computers ready to go. So it's you find the address there, you show up, you show them BYU ID card, and they're like, pick a computer. And you choose a computer and you check it out at no cost. So you can do it for free. It's not going to be an extra cost, but it'll be a little bit of a hassle, but you'll have to have Windows to be able to do it. And so I think you probably could install this add-in on Mac, but it's not a solution. You're going to have to get to Windows to do it ultimately. Okay, so I'm just going to show this in Windows. So I've got the file downloaded, and because I've downloaded this from the internet, it says, you know what, this could be dangerous. Unless you can figure out how to enable the macros in this, you don't get to run it. And they're not going to really tell you how to enable it. They really don't. So I'll show you right here. You're going to right-click it, and you go to Properties. Maybe many of you already know this. Properties. And then this little thing here is relatively new. Unblock. So it's blocked because you download it from the internet. This file came from another computer. And it might be blocked to help protect this computer. You have to say unblock and then say OK. And in fact, once you've done that, if I right-click it again and go to Properties, it's even gone. You can't reblock it. Once you've unblocked it, it's unblocked. Okay, so anytime you download anything from this class that has macros in it, which will be most of the files that we work with, you'll have to go through that process to unblock. All right, so now we have to install this add-in into our copy of Excel. So I'm going to open up Excel. Oh boy, I'm going to accept the terms. Privacy matters, so I don't believe it. I'll just open up here Excel, and let's do this. We're going to have to do two things. One is we're going to need to enable the environment for doing VBA. So, and once that VBA environment is enabled, installing this add-in will be just a little bit easier. And we have to do them both, so let's go ahead and do the VBA one first. So it turns out, there is so much raw power available in VBA that the good folks at Microsoft don't want mere mortals having access to it. And so when you install Excel, VBA is just not even available to you. And I think if you can't figure out how to make VBA available, you don't have a ticket to watch the show, right? It's you really don't want my mother using VBA. No good would come of that, really. And so, and it's not especially clear how you would get to it. Here's how you do it. We're going to choose File, Options, and then Customize Ribbon. So right here is Customize Ribbon. On Mac, it's you choose, at the very top menu, you choose Excel Properties, I think. preferences, Excel preferences, and then there's a choice for customize ribbon in the preferences, yeah? And then it's something like this, customize ribbon, and you just have to find the developer tab. It's unchecked. You just got to check it. And if any of these other ones are too pesky, like, that pesky home menu, if you think, man, that's always in the way, you could uncheck that and it would go away. Or if your roommate walked away with his computer and left it on, you could uncheck that one. Well, probably shouldn't do that. That'd be a sin. You'd have to repent. But I do encourage repentance, so I don't know. Okay, so I've checked the developer box. Let's say okay, and now I've got the developer tab. And this is where I have the tools that we'll use to interact with Visual Basic for applications. By the way, recently, like within the last year, this tab has shown up. This is the Automate tab. This allows you to record actions, make a new script, but this is automating with JavaScript. So Microsoft is introducing a new way to automate Excel. And that's like the default one. So we're not going to, well, we may do something on the very last day. I may introduce this to you at the end of the class. And kind of once this went mainstream, I thought maybe I should be, because the class is not called VBA. What's it called? What's this class called? Yes, spreadsheet automation. And we can do that over here in JavaScript as well. So maybe we should move to JavaScript. Here's the trouble. The reason that they're like JavaScript is great and they leave it available for everyone is because you can't do very much with it. And it's like really restricted on what you can do. Like there's some great things you can do with it, but it's nowhere near as powerful as VBA. And so at least for the next few years, I think we'll probably be teaching this class with VBA just because it's so much more powerful. But the reason that they went in the direction of JavaScript is because, kind of faced with, they made Excel for Windows. They kind of grudgingly made Excel for Mac. And ultimately, they finally got VBA working in the Mac, but it's still not 100% there. And then faced with the question, now we've got Excel for iOS. We've got Excel for Android. We've got Excel for the web. Are we going to make VBA for all those places? And what did they say? They said, no, that's way too much work and way too much security problems. And the platforms are so different. They said, but there's already a language that's cross-platform compatible that works in all those places. What's it called? JavaScript. And so they said, we're going to figure out how to make it JavaScript work around. So this is probably the future, but it's a distant future still, I'm afraid. And the reason is that, like right now, for sure, you are limited to stuff in this workbook. Like saying, hey, I want to go to back to the file system, open up some other workbooks that are there, make changes, create new workbooks and save them, delete files off the, work with PDF files, none of that. And that's all stuff that we'll learn how to, well, I don't think we'll learn how to work with PDF files, but the rest of that stuff we'll learn here in this class. So don't get confused by the Automate tab. The Developer tab is the one that we're using. Now, once we've got the Developer tab, we can do all stuff with VBA, but right here, we can have Excel add-ins. And here's where we're going to click on this little gear right here to install that add-in that we download. So I'm going to choose Excel add-ins. And it's not listed here because where is it sitting? It's sitting in my download folders. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to choose Browse. And instead of looking for it, I'm going to drag it right here in the default location where it opened. So I'm going to come find my downloads, and I'm going to do that again because it's kind of a weird thing to do. Click on Browse, and instead of browsing for it, I'm just going to copy that file into that location. Just drag it on over there. That probably moved it instead of copying. That's fine. We don't need it anywhere else. The nice thing about bringing it over here is that it puts it in the place where Excel expects to find add-ins. And if you have it anywhere else besides here, from time to time, Excel is going to be like, I don't know what that is out there, but I don't think you really need it. And it will like uninstall it. And you have to go through the install process. But here it should stick for you. Then I'll say OK. And now here it is, Atlas VBA 1.5a. It's checked. I'll say OK. I may go ahead and get the solver while I'm here. I'll say OK. And that should now show up like as its own tab. So here's a tab here called Atlas. And so the way this works is once you're going to have to, from my educator, you're going to have to download the assignment file. But once that assignment file is open, you click on instruction sheet and that will show you the instructions for that assignment, whichever assignment is active. Click on the submit button when you're ready to submit, and that will submit the file for you. I mean, you click on it, you'll have to give your credentials, and then it will submit. And so that's what that's there for. Okay, any questions on getting that add-in installed? Yes.
Over there,
Yeah, there's no instruction sheet here because we don't have an assignment open. These things only work when you have a file open that we're doing an assignment for. But hey, why don't we just go ahead and do one real quick? I'm going to come to our, let's see, I'm going to go to our textbook. Do I have a direct link to the textbook? No, I don't. So my educator, log in, log in. It's 1206 AXAC. Someone look at the URL. Is that the URL? Is that the number in your URL after web? Yeah. Okay. So there'll be links in your homework. I think I still have to get the TA to build. Oh no, I think I made them. So anyway, here's how we're going to do an assignment. I'm not sure how you actually get to here, but I'm going to do manage. No, under student menu, I'm going to choose assessments. It doesn't say student menu for you. It says course, I think. Choose assessments. And then like here's our very first assignment. Create a web query. Should we just do this one in class right now? Let's just do it. I'm going to click on create a web query. I should say, okay, we're ready to download this file. Here it is, XLSM. I'll click on it to download. And it says, okay, you're downloaded right here. Before I try to open it, I'm going to go enable it. It's an XLSM file. So right click, properties, unblock. Then I should just be able to double click it to open. So here's create a web query. And now if I come to the Atlas tab and click show instruction sheet, it should like open up the instructions for that assignment. You'll notice that it's actually looking at a location on your drive. That add-in looked at the assignment file, wrote an HTML file to your computer, and then opened it in your browser. And so this is a homework assignment. Most of your homework assignments will have you writing VBA. This one won't. So like for the day that this is due, we're going to be automating the legacy web query. So all I want you to do is be familiar enough with the web query that you could like know what a web query is. So it's telling you how to do it. Type in the search here, legacy web, and then choose web query. Let's just go ahead and do that together. So I'm here on the, make sure I'm on the one that's create web query. I'm going to search for, what did it say? What did I say? Legacy? Yeah, from web legacy is what I'm trying to get to. This is going to open a web browser like that's built into Excel. It's a really bad browser. It doesn't do automatic stuff very well at all. But if every other browser you had broke, you could open up Excel and you could browse right here. I'm going to say, do you want to continue running scripts? No, it's going to keep running them anyway, but I'll say no a few times. Like, I think this is actually Internet Explorer, which is awesome. So I'm going to come back and see what the instructions are. It says go to this. I'm not sure that I've turned this machine on. I usually turn this machine on in my office just to be able to do this assignment. Let's see if I have it on. Oh yeah, I do. Good. So it's making a web query. So right here, and the instructions are go to that site. It displays this stuff. That's great. Change the name of the sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and click import. And it's going to put that somewhere right here, A1. I'm going to say OK. And now this is a web query. That site that we went to just displays a random quote from the Founding Fathers. So if I was to refresh this, the point is this is not an import, this is a query, which means that I can refresh it and it'll pull the new data. It'll just say, hey, what's on that page right now? And it will pull it in. So if I come here to data and say refresh all, it'll make a request to that web page and bring in the next quote. So maybe I want this to wrap. Format cell, just so we can see the quote. Alignment, wrap text. Boop. I can refresh and we'll pull a new quote. So the idea here is that there's data that's sitting out on some web page somewhere, and I want to go get what the current data is saying. Now, in class, when we get to this point, it's going to be like, hey, make a web query and let's move on. That's why I want you to have experience with the web query before we get there to class. It also tells us change the name of the worksheet to quotes. That'll help the grading happen. So QUOTES. I think that's it. The site displays your web query should return data into A1. don't need to write any VBA for this assignment. It's only a web query, and that's 10 points. Now that I've done that, I should be able to come to the Atlas tab and choose Submit. So it's great. Give me your username at my educator. Password, that's the problem. Do I remember my password? I think so. Oh, you don't get this one. This is just like, because it knows me as the instructor. So I'm just going to go ahead and submit this for me. Here's what is submitted directly. It come through, should take me to my educator, and it should show me my score. Woohoo, 10 out of 10. Wait, that's, yeah, 10 out of 10. Got it. Nailed it. And that's it. That's the process. So you open up the assignment, go to the Atlas tab, say, hey, show me the instructions. It gives you the step-by-step what you need to do. Once you've done that, hit submit, go through, and you got your feedback. Questions? Yeah. Yeah, it'll come back and like every task that it showed here, it will give you, it'll like, there's only one here. So it would give you feedback and it would say, the idea is not to tell you how to do it, but to tell you why the grader knows it was wrong. So it'll be like, you know, expected to find something in this range and it wasn't there. Okay, questions? Yeah. Oh, that refresh button is on the data tab. So you can refresh all of your queries by coming to the data tab. Oh, that's a draw. Data tab and refresh all. Yep. Oh, that's fine. What time does this class get out? So we got like less than 15 minutes. We got to get busy because we got some stuff to cover. All right. Let me see. Do I have any other notes about stuff I'm supposed to cover? Get that syllabus quiz done. When's it due? It's due Monday, January 22nd. Okay. Purchase a textbook. So we are now on chapters 6 and 7. No, we're not. Where are we? This is Monday. Chapter 1, learning about macros. So let's, in fact, I think it's chapter 1 and chapter 3. Learning about macros is crazy short. Macros just basically means, you know, it turns out that when we very first started using spreadsheets, kind of intro, a little history here, it's kind of interesting. So the very first electronic spreadsheet program was a program called VisiCalc. Its successor, SuperCalc, was the first thing that made businesses take personal computers seriously. So the idea that I could have a computer that was a standalone computer, not a part of any network, couldn't talk to any other person, just a single computer, that if I had that and I had an electronic spreadsheet, SuperCalc, that's something that I would spend $5,000 for. It would cost you $5,000, $6,000 to put that in place in the early 1980s. And that was for the first time businesses went, yeah, this could be really important. By the way, what was it? What was the first like broad use of spreadsheet software in businesses? Like, just guess, like think, what would really be a pain to do without a computer that we're gonna do with it? And doesn't have to be shared among a bunch of people. Anyone take a guess? No, we're not, you know, we're getting close to forecasting it. It's just budgets. It's just keeping track of how much that we're going to spend. Can you imagine what it was like to write budgets before you had like a spreadsheet? Like, hey, here, boss, the budget is done. Here it is. Oh, I forgot to tell you, we got to reduce by 10%. Like on a spreadsheet, what do? 10% reduce, here's the budget. You know, you're doing it by hand? Oh, I got to start from scratch. And so this idea to say we could have a budget that were dynamic, that was it. But we pretty quickly found out that we did the same set. There's no mouse involved by this time. We did the same steps over and over and over again. And someone got the bright idea, wouldn't it be great if we could just record ourselves, like record those keystrokes? And so it was like, yeah, that's great. The way we used to do macros, it's like, hey, I want to record a macro. They say, great, what cell do you want to put this macro in? You pick a cell and you just start doing stuff. And as you typed, whatever you did, it would just start putting those keystrokes going down from that location. You wanted to play those, you wanted to run that macro, you selected that cell where it was, and you said, run this macro, and it would just go through and just resend all those keystrokes. Do it again. That's how macros worked until 1995. In 1995, Microsoft said, you know what, maybe instead of recording the keystrokes, and the problem was now the mouse is like prevalent and a problem, because doing stuff with a mouse, you can't record the keystrokes. So they said, instead of recording the keystrokes, we are going to take the actions that you invoked and we are going to write a computer program that does that, that you can edit. Who knows the name of the language that Microsoft first used in 1995 to be able to record macros? Yeah, it's the same language, Visual Basic for Applications. Like, and I learned it like in 1995. I was like an early adopter of this. And at the time I thought I might make it to the year 2000 with this language before I'll have to retool. The fact that like now in 2024, I'm just like, it's still like the language that you use for automating spreadsheets is like absolutely amazing to me. And Microsoft knows that they have to maintain backwards compatibility, right? What would happen if the next version of Excel was like, oh, sorry, all those workbooks you used to use, macros don't work anymore? What would you do? Assuming you lived through the day, what would you do? Yeah, wow, you'd be depressed and you'd have to take counseling and such. And then you're like, wow, I got to rebuild all this stuff. Are you going to do it in Microsoft Excel? No, where would you go? I'm going to go to your number one competitor. I'm going to go to Google Sheets. Because if I have to start again, I might as well start on something that's kind of a little more cloud ready and cloud driven. So Microsoft knows they've got to keep that backwards compatibility. Anyway, so that's why I'm not worried about like learning a language that Microsoft would dearly love to get rid of. They have to maintain it for backwards compatibility. It will become less relevant and less relevant as the JavaScript becomes more capable, but we're not there yet. Okay, so let's go ahead and record a macro. And we're going to talk about two kind of basic ideas. So I'm going to come back to book one. We've got our developer tab showing. So let's see how to record a macro. I'm going to choose developer. And I'm going to choose record macro right here. Now, when I click on record macro, it's going to say, great, what do you want to call this macro? I'm going to call this PNL, like profit. I'll make a little profit and loss statement here. Oh, look at this. I can put a shortcut key on it. This is profit and loss, so I guess I'll just call it P, Control P. Wait a minute, that sounds familiar. What does Control P do? Not anymore, it doesn't. Now Control P runs this macro. Do you see why you don't want my mother playing with this? Yeah. So instead of putting a lowercase p, I'm going to put a capital P there. And now that'll be Control Shift P that invokes this. And that'll be a little safer. Three places I can store the workbook. I can make or store this macro. I can make a brand new workbook for it. I can put it in my personal macro workbook. It turns out that you can run any macro that's in any open workbook. And so if I put this in the personal macro workbook, once I record a macro into the personal macro workbook, every time after that, when I open Excel, it will automatically open my personal macro workbook in the background. So if I put it there, it is available every time I have Excel open. So if you're recording something you want to have available everywhere, that's where you would put it. For this one, we're just going to leave it to go into this workbook. So this is like code that only really pertains to this particular workbook. Make a profit and loss statement. Okay. This is going to be like the most simple profit and loss statement we've ever made. So, but the idea here is I've got some form that I need to like put this structure into a workbook and kind of do it regularly. Maybe it's a special formatting that I want to do and so forth. So now when I say okay, I have to be careful because now everything I do is being recorded. Well, the truth is, even before I press OK, everything that I do is being recorded in heaven. But now it's being recorded by Excel as well. So I got to be extra careful. So I'm going to start off by, in fact, I'm just going to leave myself in my active cell, wherever it is. If you're not in A1, that's OK. Just leave it right there. And I'm going to type in revenue. I'll spell it right. Oh, actually, yeah, I'll do it. R-E-V-E-N-U-E. Now, I want you guys to stay right where you are, but I'm going to bring up this code so we can kind of see it going while it's happening. All right. I'm going to let me give myself a little bit better font. Options, editor format, Microsoft Sans Serif Western, 18 points. Okay, so hopefully you can read that. This is gonna be a little bit of a problem, but we'll address that as we go. So let me go ahead and type in the next one. Here's expenses. Whoops, don't type it there. Next one down, expenses. And profit. Now come back here. And I will say this, actually, I'm going to put discount to profit. By the way, you'll notice that as I'm like changing different cells that I'm selecting, it's like, you know what, you selected that cell, but you didn't do anything with it. I'm not going to really keep that a track, but it's just noticing the last thing you select, because it realized that whatever you selected wasn't important. But now that I'm going to change this, say profit equals revenue minus expense. And now I'm done. I'm going to click stop recording. Very important to click stop recording. One time I was recording a macro and my wife called, and there was some problem with the plumbing, and I had to go home and take care of whatever it was. And I came back to work and continued on. I forgot I was recording a macro, and like worked for the rest of the day, 4 more hours or so, and recorded thousands and thousands of lines of VBA code. I felt so productive, but it was totally useless. But anyway, got to stop. You got to tell it to stop when you're done. Okay, so now let me just add a new sheet, and I should keep an eye. I don't know what that is, but apparently that's new. And I'll now just right here on A1, I'm going to run that same code. So I'm going to come back to my developer tab, click my list of macros here. There's the one I created, P&L. I'll click run, and it runs it right there. That's beautiful. I'll make a new sheet. I'll press Control-Shift-P, and it runs that macro. Just does that same thing over and over again. Now, it doesn't quite do this right, because you'll notice that here I select A2 afterwards. So expense is going to go into A2, but revenue is going to go to my active cell. So what happens if I clear this sheet off and I go here and press Control-Shift-P? It's going in the active cell, and then it's writing the rest of it over here. So the nice thing about this is I can come in here and say, all right, I'm going to change this. I'll change this one to say range A1.select. And then we just put that one above. So I'm going to say select A1 and then change the formula of the active cell. This R1C1's kind of interesting. We'll talk about that later, but for now, just believe. So now, wherever I am, when I run that, it will first start by going to A1 and doing it. There's 2 things that I want to look at here, and then we're done. The nature of this language is an object-based, some will call it object-oriented language. What that means is the natural flow of things identifies something, some object, just a thing. Here's a range, it's a particular cell, A2. And on that, I'm going to either run a method, tell this object to do something that it knows how to do. So select is a method. The important part here is that VBA does not have a select statement. This object, the range object, has a select method. So I'm telling this object to run its select method to make itself active, and that object knows how to make itself the active cell. That's a method. It's an instruction the object knows how to do. The other characteristic is a property. So methods are things the object knows how to do. Property is something that describes the way the object is. And so A2 says, great, we're selecting that, making the active cell. Then the active cell, we're changing a property of that cell. What are we changing? We're changing the formula to say expenses. Or in this case, we're changing the formula to say equals this formula. And this notation is not familiar to you, but don't worry about it. It creates a normal formula that you're used to seeing. Those 2 ideas. Objects have properties, just something that describes the way the object is. Objects have methods. Method is something the object knows how to do. That's the introduction for today. Thanks for coming. I will see you on Wednesday. Class dismissed. Oh, stop.